Hello, I'm Cheetah. I'm the director of the Eurofurence Pawpetshow. And since we have to run it at this time of the day, which is really, really late, I hope that everyone's awake. I'm very thankful that people are coming interested in the stuff we do. When we started preparing this talk, we thought, how can we present what we do? Because honestly, we've been doing this for more than 10 years, but we had no idea how we actually do it. We never had a structure to the process. It was basically tasks that were handed to the people who were there, and it kept growing from there. We started preparing this talk, and this was the first question we asked ourselves: where do we even start? Because we didn't know. So we made this little process diagram, and we figured out that whatever we do, it's fucking complicated. The whole thing, the whole production of the puppet show starts a long time before we start rehearsing the puppet show, obviously. I made a screenshot from our internal documentation where you can see that the first script writing meetings take place in January, and the whole process of making this happen takes about between 7 and 8 months. We have 1 year of preparing this thing, and January is about the time when we actually get to do it. And we have only this one go to actually get it right. Sometimes it's going to work, and if we figure out it doesn't work, we have to make it work. So if we talk about script writing meeting, that's usually me and Icebox. And we are living about 500 kilometers, that's 350 miles apart. That means if the roads are clear, we have like what's the record?
4 hours.
Yes, I usually take like 6 hours per time. I'm not young as he is. And
I had a good
I don't want to die that early. And so it's quite a bit of an effort, because every second weekend he comes to my place, and every other weekend I come to his place. The first thing we come up with: what kind of story do we want to write? Is it going to be a love story? Is it going to be a political thriller? Is it going to be a science fiction story? We usually settle with something that we really enjoy writing, because we get a lot of requests. Why don't you write this? Why don't you write that? Why don't you write something that goes with the theme? If you only have 6 months to write it, and you're not someone who basically writes pulp fiction for a living, it's really hard to come up with something that someone else came up with and then write a story that fixes it. And so we usually go with epic stories. We like character-driven storytelling. The inspiration we have is basically the stuff we wanted to watch when we were children. So a lot of inspiration we draw are from early 80s or 90s, like Jim Henson movies with All of the Dark Crystal or anything like that. And the other thing is we really like to play computer games, so we are much inspired by computer games of the 90s and the story they tell. Well, next thing you have to find out, if you know what kind of story you want to write, you need to find out when and where is it going to happen. You need to come up with the universe it takes place in. So you have to make up a time frame. If it's supposed to be like a mirror image of the real world, you have to see, is it the medieval times, is it far in the future? And you need to come up with a place. We must have a geography that works. For example, if characters move from one place to another, we need to make sure. Yeah, we need not only to make sure that it works on stage, but also the distances we have here and the scale of the world kind of matches our story, so we can tell a story in this time and place. The next thing is you need to come up with characters who live in this place that you've just come up with. What is the main characters? What is the main conflict? What's the story going to be about? So you come up with, okay, you have this one guy and he has to redeem himself because he has a dark secret. And you keep writing that guy's backstory, and it's not going to end up directly in the story, but it's just the pre-work you do before you start writing this. If you have the world, the characters, and the motivation, you basically imagine how would it be if these characters meet, and you start writing the dialogue. And if you reach that point, and if you've done it consistently, the story is basically going to write itself.
What we try is to place them in a world and say, okay, go. Yeah. And they run. So in our heads, they start running and doing things. And if that outcome is not really as desired, then we put an obstacle in their place. So they can't run that way. They have to run the other way. And so like this, you build piece by piece.
And as you can tell, the actual mechanics of playing comes last. We have to keep in mind what the restrictions are and what people can do and what people we have. Because we're writing for a specific group of puppeteers that we can't write something we don't have. And we can't write anything that we physically can't do. Anyway, how do we come up with the stuff? I'm showing you right now the route that we usually walk when we write. This is my place. I'm living someplace down here. That's my home. And this is the way we walk. When the weather is nice, we keep walking for 2 or 3 hours and keep throwing ideas at each other, and to get all the distractions out of you. Because if we sit at the computer and we're trying to come up with ideas, we will be totally distracted and watch Twitter and be frustrated. But just going outside and having a walk and like this is roughly like 15 kilometers. This is the best way to come up with ideas. First thing we do is just write the dialogue from top to bottom, and we're using this pirate pad thing. Several people can edit and watch the same document being edited. So you can log into this, and if there's logged in 3 people, you see 3 names, and everyone writes in a different color. We sit together, and we keep throwing lines at each other, and at some point you get into the flow, and the person who's doing the writing will just keep writing. And the other person would edit all the errors out, just a few lines above. And in the end, we get some German-English mixture thing that we can work with. When we've got the basic dialogue down, we put it into our documentation, which is a wiki. And we first write a header into the wiki where we have a list of characters, we have a list of the setting, how the scene is going to be. You can see the little symbols on the left. It shows which is the direction, which is the light direction, which is the sound direction. And using this, people can theoretically just pick up the lines that are interesting for them. Well then, eventually magic happens, and the result is a script. And this is how a typical pop show script looks like. It has like roughly 70 pages with all the directions in it. It's basically a printout from the wiki. Everyone gets a copy of this for each rehearsal we do. Some decide to put it on their handheld, they put it on a phone or on a tablet. But for most of the rehearsal we do this. And everyone during the rehearsals like this just scribbles in it and have their own notes. And well, most of the time Risa is the one who has to consolidate all the changes, because she's our script kitty. And we just keep throwing changes at her, and she will put them in the wiki. When we've got the basic dialogue written and the basic directions, then comes the time when the first rehearsal takes place. We have a workshop that we can use as a rehearsal stage, and this is how it looks when we sit together for the first time. Ideally, everyone should have read the script by then, but many don't. Don't want to spoil the surprise.
If we start reading out the dialogue, we're trying to find out who of the guys you can see there will be able to play this role or play that role. Or someone says, oh, I want this role, I want that role. And then, of course, trading goes on. Because there are two or three people who want to take one role, and the other ones want to take another role, and then they start swapping things until we finally arrive at the stage where we can say, okay, you are, in this case, you are Frostwind, you are Ironwood, and you are Riverstone.
Sometimes we have someone in mind. Yeah. Sometimes we have to have someone in mind. Like, we have very, very few female actors. So if we have one woman like Han in the cast, it's quite obvious that she's going to play the girl, because there's no choice. Sometimes we cast by skill, because someone has a speaking role and we know his English is really good. And sometimes we know someone will play an extra, because he does play very good, but his English is not too good. And we usually have people like Lancy, Chicago, or Pinky, or Twill, trying to help us out and read through our script before we rehearse it and turn the gibberish into somewhat English-like sentences. Because, yeah, it's really hard as Germans to actually write this in English. When we reach this point, we basically go and rehearse the thing. Everyone knows who their roles is. And the first thing we do is we read this whole thing from the script with the right distribution of roles.
The first time reading and standing behind the stage and trying to play the thing is usually very, very stiff. And it just goes like, wait a minute, okay, got the line, okay, ouch, damn, oh no, they're not the fire, nowhere.
Yeah, I'm going to have some footage from the first rehearsal, so we can have your opinion on where it goes.
And we don't have all the props yet.
Yeah, and we don't have all the puppets yet, because it's a blank slate. At this point, it's the first time that we decide how it's going to be.
You have a skeleton of a puppet. This is what we play with for the first rehearsal. Sometimes we have a bit more, sometimes we take one of the pre-made puppets and use them, reuse them as cast or as stand-ins for the puppets we will use later. So sometimes we have a wolf playing a bunny. When first time on the stage.
And sometimes we have a Coke bottle playing the bunny.
Right, you have a Coke bottle running around.
I'm going to hand the mobile thing to Leonard now, because he's going to tell us something about the puppets.
Yeah, so Chita gave me this little script here with lots of information.
Yeah, it's PowerPoint material.
And he said, okay, we have some slides and you will do it. Well, as you can see, we have brought a few puppets. This is about, I think, 50%.
Yes, this is a small part of the ensemble we have.
But these are the newer ones we have at the moment. We started off with very small ones, but as the stage grew, we had to go for bigger puppets.
Yeah, the slide shows you a couple of our puppet builders. I will turn this a little bit so you can see what you're actually talking about. On the top row we have Henrike, Lance Ikigawa, we have Theo. On the bottom row we have Hani. On the right we have Bruno and Fervin, and there's so much many more. I think every one of us has done some extent of puppet building sometime. What we're showing on the slide right now is how it goes from character design to the actual puppet, because if we can afford the time, and if people can afford the time, we usually talk with the artist and we tell them about the backstory of the character, and we give them some ideas how it's going to look like. And this is what you can see here. That's character sketches done by Henrike that she did of that character, and then later, actually when we liked it, she started building that puppet. And
yeah, as you can see, she is very good with 2D characters, and also she has a good idea how you actually have to build a puppet. You can see this in the middle, on the upper part. You can see she has painted a hand inside, so how the hand will fit inside the puppet. This is always very good, because mostly you have puppets, they look good, but somehow the puppet player has to get inside, and if I have to hold my hand like this, it's not fun going for a puppet for 2 hours or so.
he looks overweight a bit.
That's from all the fast food.
This is Visonia that we first used in the EF18 show, the Roman show, and we've been recycling her and using her again.
I think it's her, right?
Yeah.
Or
Is it the one with? It's the one with the blue eyes.
Okay. I'm always mixing them up.
Yeah.
We have 2 of them. So.
This is a really early one
Yeah.
where Xan did the design in a 3D program, and he loves dragons, so he did this design of Kai Lung, that's the character's name, and he did a very detailed sketch of the color scheme. And in the bottom frame you can see how it turned out in real life, and it was like 2.5 meters long.
Yeah, we needed 3 people to play it, and
Yeah, there was one guy wearing it on
extremely
his head.
heavy.
Yeah.
So we have here the head of the snap jaw. He's sitting over there. He's very big.
Yeah.
This is from Lance Ikigawa.
Lance Ikigawa
You
made
can see,
this one.
that's the problem with the head. It turns around. You have to be very careful with that.
Yeah. And he put a lot of detail in that you don't actually see in the show, because it has some supposed to have some lamps in it in the nose and in the paws. And we knew that we could not possibly play a full dragon on stage, because it would have taken like 10 people to play it at this scale. So we decided it was a dark scene, and we had one guy, Leonard, playing the paws, I think.
One
2 guys.
paw.
Yes.
In the beginning, I played 2 paws, and then we split it over because it was
The distance was too big. So we ended up with, I think, 4 or 5 people.
I started springing the paws now. They were like gloves.
We used a little theater trick. We turned down the light so nobody could see that this thing actually doesn't have a body. So you can only see the eyes and everything that glows, and everything else, like the puppeteers, is hidden in the dark.
Yeah, exactly like that.
Yeah.
The problem is also with these hands. She just said, okay, you have to grab the one of the characters. It's like, I try to. That's Lord Eldercrown, and I think he already has a printed 3D head, right?
Yep, that's the first time. Okay. Sometimes our characters are inspired by external sources. Like in the top left, you can see a character sketch that's originally from the computer game Inherit the Earth.
Yeah.
And we want to have a character who's like the king of the village, and he's like all the authority.
Yeah.
We cutified a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. But that also, his antlers are formed like a crown here. So this also plays into a character a little bit. You try to put features into the character design itself. So he looks cute with that. He's the ruler of the city.
Yeah.
That's why he has this antlers, this round ones. Or something.
Yeah. This little guy is called Bottle Brush.
Yeah, that's Bottle Brush. That's my tail here. He's huge and heavy.
Yeah, exactly.
And he has Theo, what is it? A cleaning brush, right? He's called bottle brush. Yeah, he has a brush in his tail. So, that's why. But it works very nicely.
Yeah.
Bounces back.
Yeah. Maybe Theo wants to talk a few things about the actual process of how we build it. And the first thing that Theo does, when Theo does the puppet building, he kind of developed a standard process for coming up with new puppets. And 3D printing revolutionized everything.
Yeah, when I first started making puppets, I built them all by hand using the usual materials, but I also use fursuit building. So plastic mesh, a lot of cable ties, foam for the body, and everything covered with fur using hot glue just to stick it on. So this process took me a lot of time. And I soon realized that I couldn't really do it with many puppets. And I wanted to find a way where other people could work with me and give them a very simple way to help without having to have all the skills and all the materials and so on. So I started to use 3D printing to make very simple heads that can be used to make a puppet. And I basically mailed these heads to other people and let them finish it. So, for example, Albert Crown overwear was built by Luno. I also did some workshops at home where I invited other people to help me to see how it's built, and it worked very well. We have a lot of puppets now.
Yeah.
I hope we don't need as many for the next show.
I hope so too. It'll be all birds, don't worry. Very easy. Yeah, he did one bird and we were like, hey, this looks really cool, we should do this.
I made 2 by now.
Yeah. Here you can see that there's heads being 3D printed. The holes are to reduce weight and to reduce the material we use. And then this is one of the typical, I dare say, standard bodies.
Yeah.
It's the lightest way to build bodies, and it's all home improvement supplies. The black straps are safety straps. The gray parts are heating insulation. The blue thing is a sleeping mat or a yoga mat, gym mat. And then it's lots of hot glue and burnt fingers.
I made a lot of patterns for these. The pattern for the body is, for example, on Fur Affinity. You can download it, print it, use it. All the other parts also have patterns that I described in my tutorials. So it's not really not complicated to make one of these.
Yeah. I think the most complicated part is actually putting the fur on.
Yeah.
You can now see on the slides, you can see the puppet that is actually made up of the parts you can see here. So it's the body and the head that gets joined. And you can actually delegate it. You can send the head to someone else and you send the body. As long as you use the same type of fur, you know it's going to fit.
Yes.
Yeah, I have 2 little videos next. Here we can see Ani doing the fur of one of the non-anthropomorphic puppets. One try was the Year of the Rat, where the protagonists were this huge non-anthropomorphic dragon that I showed earlier, and those non-anthropomorphic tigers. And yes, it was a challenge to build, it was a challenge to play, and we're not going to play. It's really complicated.
There's a reason why we don't use them.
Yeah, but you could see that Tani is trimming the fur at the moment, and that's one, exactly like fursuit building, it's one of the important things you can do.
The heads of these cats are actually fursuit heads that I made. So this one in the picture, it would have fit me.
Wow, das macht enorm viel Lärm.
And I think it's one of the nicest puppets that we had, I must say. I really like it.
There's all the markings, even on the back, on the tails, everything is there.
It needed lots of modification until it works.
Oh yeah. The head is not the original head. We made 2 of us. The first one did not really look right.
Yes. we had to check out the proportions, because if you build puppets like this, you actually have to have some sense of proportion in it so that they work in the context of the story. You can have like one puppet that is like all cartoony, and you can't have another puppet that is all realistic. You have to find that middle ground, and we used the Mongrels middle ground. Yes. So we watched the TV series The Mongrels, and we thought this is exactly what we want to do. It's only that we're building them about 50% larger. We actually had the guys from Mongrels play up one of these puppets, and they were like, "Oh, these are lightweight for the size, honestly." But are you holding this up for so long? And we talked to Jim Martin, that's one of the directors behind the Sesame Street, and he also saw our puppet show. And we asked him, "Is there any special trick you do not to sprain your shoulder?" He said, "Well, yeah, your scenes are too long. That's it. It's that easy." We said, "Oh yeah, you can talk. You're working on television. You can make it as short as you want to."
It's like, okay, it's a little bit different with us.
Yes. So this is the problem we have to deal with. We have only one size of puppet, and we only have one size of stage.
And play rail.
And the thing is, we have to somehow find a middle ground to place the rail that we play on, that everyone can actually play it. And this is the reason why you sometimes see our heads, because we have to have the smallest puppeteer as a measure. And she's already working hard to do it bigger, and we keep like putting up Coke bottles, Coke crates and stuff like that for her to stand on when she just keeps getting lower and lower.
Well, sometimes it looks like this. She's standing there holding the puppet right up, and I'm staying next to her, playing like this with her, so it works right, but it's not good for my back, but
And we have people like Overwolf over there, who's
even taller.
Tiger's Eye, who has one of the jobs like carrying stuff around.
I think you get the point.
I suggest not only the type of puppeteer differs. I suggest you grab just Frostwind and Rehearsals and show people how different the size of the puppets is. Sometimes you want a puppet that is like a kid, and that really gets a problem because you can't make it much smaller, but your hand won't fit inside.
Yeah, no, it's fun when you build it when you can't fit inside yourself.
Yes, we also have that, because the puppets are finished not only when the director is happy, also when the puppeteers are happy, because they might be too heavy, they might be too small. We had one time we had like the puppeteer couldn't fit his arm inside. It's like we have the most beautiful puppet ever. The puppeteer was going like, does everybody have like loop on them? I don't get it. But rain dancer?
I wasn't aware, but I built it. And suddenly I got this tweet, "Theo, your fox is too tight."
That was Marcus.
Like
Usually when you fit your hand inside the puppet, you try to play it like this. So the lower jaw goes with the thumb and the rest of the head with the rest of the fingers.
Yeah.
But sometimes we have puppets you have to play that my middle finger, for example, has to go into the lower jaw and have to talk like this, which is really interesting to do. But these puppets here are much better built for that.
Well, Rain Dancer is a bit of an exception because he is really, really small. It's a small guy in the middle right now, you can't see.
And you can see now clearly how it looks behind the stage when all the people gathering together, hugging each other. It's a bunch of people standing on each other's toes.
Yeah.
And his head inside is so small, I can't even get my whole hand inside. I have to do it like this, like two fingers and a thumb, and curl out the other fingers like that so they don't get in the way. I tried this, I tried everything, it's just very
don't worry, the hurting will go away.
So basically you have father and mother and the kid now, and you can see how we tried to kind of mix the characteristics of like a bobcat and a vixen, and we made it like, we lampshaded it by asking his dad, or asking his uncle, like, "Uncle Brushy, Mom is like a fox and Poppy is like a cat. How does that even work?" And we kind of designed the story around it, and we came up with a funny explanation to make it work. So next question is, how do you play these things?
Carefully, very carefully.
So how do you play these? So when you have a normal puppet, you go like this and talk like this and move your head left and right and everything, so we can kind of do some expressions here and there. But if you want to do something more complex, you need arms. Because arms, well, you can talk and do things like that with your arms and express yourself in a way you can't do without it, of course. And if you ever played something on a theater stage, on a real theater stage,
your face is basically meaningless because people are sitting like 30 meters, 40 meters away and don't see you really, but they see what you're doing with your arms and your body.
You can see we have the rods here,
Yeah.
which control the hands.
This is obviously the reason why they are named rod puppets, because you have the rods on the hands, where you can basically move the whole arm and the hands at the same time. So you can twist the rod to have like the open the hand, turn it to the outside, turn it to the inside, and of course position it the way you want it to.
Yeah. Here you can see he has here this clips for the rods, so he just can go a little bit in this direction, while he has additional possibility to move. But this also makes it complicated. The hand will probably go like this.
Yeah, it needs a bit of practice, of course.
Yeah.
And you can see when I'm going to talk and I'm going to use my arms to show what I want to show it over there, or show over there, something like that, or just
Rub the belly.
rub my belly,
Rub the piss.
something like that. The problem is when you have a show that is 2 or 3 hours long and you only have 4 rehearsals to do that, you cannot memorize all your lines. So how you do it? You have a second person who plays the arms.
Yeah, go in front.
Of course.
Do it the real way.
Yeah. So like this.
Here. Just hold it. He has the text
So he's basically
on the...
always at my side. He's
Yeah.
he's the one who's playing the arms at the last show for River Song, and he actually always plays the arms of my puppets basically. And we are rehearsing our steps. So when I say okay, now we go left and run around here, and then stop, turn around and run back, and stop again. We have to do it in sync. Because when I run away, my arms don't follow, it looks silly, right? So it always has to work in some way. Or if he's going to interact with something, reading on a cell phone. Yeah, we have a stagehand holding his cell phone, because I'm here still reading my script and playing up there and reading on this thing and hoping that my arm's doing the right thing. And looking up and, okay, how do we even do this? Let me see. And he starts playing around and doing things, and I'm speaking the lines I have here. I really have to trust my arms and my stagehands here to do the right thing. That's basically how you do it. You need 2, maybe 3 people to play one of these puppets.
Now comes the next level.
you switch to Turkish.
Yes, try to do some interaction with 2 puppets.
Oh God!
Okay, try to improvise a little bit if it's possible.
Okay, who's that? Is that Besonia? I think it's Besonia, right? Hey, Besonia, how you doing? What? Oh, I'm sorry. Can I give you a hug? No. Please. Maybe. Oh, pretty, please. With cherry on top. Okay. Welcome here.
This is really hard. It looks so easy when they do it. If we have the time, after this talk is done, we might have some time left, and we'll give you this opportunity to come up here and look at the puppets, look at the technology, and you can, if you would try to play one of these puppets, you can. Just come up to us after this talk and ask for it, and you can try to make 2 puppets hug. It's really hard. What's even harder is to make them interact with a prop. Sometimes to have like a piece of equipment that they hand over. And handing stuff over is like one of the hardest part. Try to make them hand over this. The banana. Let's use something big for change. You know where the switch is. Count the people involved in this.
Your turn. Your turn.
You see the problem?
Yes. So you start using a lot of space behind our stage because we have 5 people involved in playing 2 characters like this, and you actually have to make sure that you have the space to turn and that people don't step on their toes. Yeah. And it really takes a lot of rehearsal to do that. Try one of the knives then. Yeah. Okay, you're the zombie.
Oh, that's a zombie? What? Wait. Die! I always wanted to do that. Zombie is coming! What?
So you can see sometimes you put
Okay, I know what to write now.
So our script here says we will show you a hand over prop and do high five. So this is completely improvised. Right?
Yes, it is so much more fun to do this. And you can see sometimes he puts rods on the props. So the people handling them have something to grip on because you don't want to see like a hand every time a piece of prop gets handed around.
Our sword fight from last year.
Yeah,
Sword fight was
was really hard.
It was epic. Okay, are we going to try the high five? Yes.
Okay, you go.
Hey, high five! So that's why we replaced it afterwards. We wanted to have a high five in one of our shows, and then it didn't work, so we replaced it. Hey!
Boom. Yeah, try the kiss. That's another really hard one.
Oh yeah. I can kiss her? Really?
Yes.
A real girl?
It's a stage kiss.
A real girl?
Oh, this is really intense. You have to actually know which way the other guys turn.
Go get it.
Otherwise, they will just bump their noses into each other, and it will look like everything but not a kiss. Yeah, so that's how we play these things. Give a round of applause for puppeteers, please.
As you also can see, we made some clothing here. We usually take them from kids' stores because they have the right size.
If it's like a modern story, we'll just buy clothes like at a discount store, and we sometimes wonder who actually wears this except puppets. There's some really atrocious stuff there.
Like small people.
Yep. This is the next topic I'm going to talk about, and this is rehearsal and sound design. You might wonder how does that go together, but it's actually quite. He's seeing this slide for the first time. Yes. We thought this picture best combines rehearsal and sound design. And yes, the first rehearsal is basically the day after the first reading, and the first rehearsal is a bit like getting the band back together.
Yeah, it is.
It's basically the first time in a year that everyone who's going to take part meets. And
we're coming from all over Germany and sometimes even abroad.
Yeah, so it's pretty much like a family reunion. So we meet at the rehearsal facilities. We set up the rehearsal stage and all the front of house, which is very similar to we've set up right now. We have breakfast, so somebody is bringing like bread rolls, someone else is bringing like sausages and stuff.
Everybody picks their favorite part of the script and checks out if it really works on the stage.
You can see the workshop we're using here. There's actually tools on the wall. It's someone's car workshop we're using. You can see that we already have like a skeleton puppet here.
Yeah, these are two stand-ins. The one is Makani's skeleton, which will be used later actually, and on the left is Savannah in raw form. Which you can't really tell it is Savannah, but it is.
Yeah. Then I usually have my birthday at some rehearsal. I think I had my birthday at rehearsals like 3 years in a row or something.
I guess, yeah.
So eventually at midnight this happens. We have long hours in the evening where we have both to work, but we also sit together and talk and eat, and sometimes it gets really late and looks like this. And we usually have a barbecue for everyone. So it's pretty much like a family reunion, but it's also a lot of really hard
family
work.
members.
Yeah, eventually we get rehearsing. You can count how many people are behind the stage right now. For the speaking roles, it's at least 3 people per puppet. And for all the non-speaking puppets, it's at least 1, sometimes 2, depending on what they're supposed to do.
What you can see here in this picture is that it's a first rehearsal, so there are a lot of stand-ins. And so this is from the Keepers of the Light show. And in the back you have a Dalmatian firefighter, you have Null, and I think it's a scene with Brushy, so Brushy wasn't built, so Leonard is playing a rat instead of her skunk. So this is the normal mix of characters that you kind of have to put post-its on to remember who is who.
Exactly. I think this made sense at the time. I'm not really sure.
It actually killed my cell phone. You can see that I didn't care.
This is the stage we're rehearsing on. It's basically a piece of truss like the one the lamps are built on. It's just sideways. And we built a little wooden plank on top of it. And this is how it looks from the other side. It's really crowded. This is a little less space than we have on the actual stage.
And you can see the white stickers on
There's white stickers on the wooden plank. We numbered the section of the stage because we always get confused about what is left and what is right.
Because he sits at the front of the house, I'm usually in the back, and he says, okay, they're coming in from the left. Okay, they're coming in from the left. It's like, why are you coming in from the right? I'm coming in from the left.
We now say he comes in from number 1.
Yeah.
Because we all agreed on which side of the stage that is. That is the control booth. We have a sound desk all the way on the left. You have sound effects, that is me in the middle. And you have Tanavo, who's usually doing the lights. He's sitting here. And because we don't have much lighting during the rehearsal, he's basically the lights on, lights off guy. Turn off the lights, please. That's how it works.
Look at the script, no lights.
I'm the wrong script.
2, 3,
Yeah, this is one of the rehearsals we do with stand-ins.
This was Eve 19.
All right? Can you hear me?
Aloha Hawaii.
This is how we rehearse.
Loud and clear. Excellent. We're in shallow water, so that's not much you need to take care of. Dreht sich damit mit ihr sprechen kann, genau. Just make sure you don't bump into anything with your gear. Your life may depend on it. Not to mention it will... Jetzt kann sie reinkommen? Not to mention it will cost me a fortune.
Wow! This is beautiful!
Yes. It sure is. But as a marine biologist, you probably know a whole lot more about all this than I do.
Well, reading about it in a textbook is one thing, but this is the first time I can actually see it myself. It's mind-blowing! Look over there!
Student this guy. Oh, you
Oh, look at that over there! It's a giant umbrella squid!
Oh, I knew that one.
Flop! I've never seen one up so close. Thanks a lot for taking the time to meet him, Umakani.
You're very welcome. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Woohoo!
There we go. Is everything all right? Can you hear me?
Wow, this is so beautiful. Woohoo!
Yeah, it sure is. But as a marine biologist, you probably know a whole lot more about all this than I do.
Well, reading about it in a textbook is one thing, but this is the first time I can actually see it myself. It's mind-blowing. Look, over there!
Oh, you don't see these very often nowadays.
They're very sensitive to changes in the environment. That's why they've become so rare. Hello, little buddies.
Like he's doing this time.
Oh, wait! Look! Over there! A giant umbrella squid!
I knew that one.
So you can tell there's a lot of work that goes into the actual choreography of how puppets work. And there's sometimes it's really difficult to put that into the script because there's only dialogue. You usually start off with a script that reads like, Savannah opens the lid of her trash can looking out. Savannah starts swaying from left to right, trying to make a trash can topple over. There's a sound effect, left, right, fall. The third trash can sways and fall over. Domino effect, the third trash can topples over the second one. The second trash can topples over the first one. The first trash can knocks over the beam that holds the tin roof. Squeak! Watch out! Incoming! Then, one side of the tin roof falls down, forming a ramp. Crash and slide. The stuff stacked on the roof slides down, hitting the upper side of the seesaw. And people stop sprung, you know. Exactly. And then puppeteers usually go, what the hell? And we go like, okay, yes, we agree this is not really easy to understand, so we show you. We usually use gummy bears. We said, okay, you're the red gummy bear, you're the yellow gummy bear, and you're the green gummy bear. And then we try to show how everyone is supposed to play this on a piece of paper. And they go like, what the fuck? And they said, okay, let's make a script and explain you how things are going. And they are, I somehow where this is going, but what is that thing on the right and what's that thing on the left? And
what's the sequence of events?
Yeah, how it's going to happen, and that's the moment when Icebox goes like, okay, I will make you some animatics, so you can understand how it actually works. And then people go like,
it's that simple.
It actually is, but it involves like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 moving parts. And you have to kind of keep it in sequence. This is why people keep telling me, do something easy, do comedy. And we go like, comedy is physical humor. How are we going to do it? We're going to need 200 props to do that. And after that, we send this animatics to everyone, and then we try to rehearse it. And this is how usually it looks.
Whoa! Oh! Whoa!
Yay! Perfect! I think that was the first time we got it right. It took a little bit longer than that. And as you can see, we're always using stand-ins, like stuff that we have lying around in the workshop. It's bananas and Coke cans and everything that works. Because we have that in the workshop. And this is how the finished scene looks in the show.
Look out! Incoming! Wow! Whoa! That was close!
That was really hard to get right. Yes.
And there's the guy who built this incredible machine.
Yeah. So I told you earlier that the first rehearsal we do and the sound design are really closely intertwined. I'm going to show you why. Because the dialogue we speak at the first rehearsal is going to use as a guide track for the actual sound effects and the music we do.
Alle in Position. Alle in Position. Achtung.
Ja.
Gut, von euch da hinten brauchen wir auch mal kurz ein bisschen Ruhe.
Hello? Is anybody out there? Shit! Out! Damn! Oh no! No! Not the fire! No! Go back to honey! Out! Ah! Ouch! Help! Ah! Get off!
Who's there? What in the light's name is going on?
I'm over here! Help me! No!
Hey, you filthy beast! Get the hell out of here! Or I'll blow your ugly eyes out with my light!
So yeah, that's the excerpt of the rehearsal. And we are recording that dialogue. As you can see in the front, there's a PC running that records everything we say and everything we do. And I'm going to try and show you how we use that guide track to get to the final soundtrack. Okay, the software I'm using here is called Samplitude. It's a hard disk recording software that can be used for music productions or everything else. I'll show this message again. And basically, every line we see here is one channel of audio that gets mixed into each other. Exactly. And I need to scroll all the way to the left to show it to you. So, the thing you can see up here, that is basically our recording of the track that you saw earlier.
Shit! Shit! Ouch! Damn! Oh no! No! Not the fire! No! Goes up the honey! Ouch! Help! Get off!
I'm a little bit afraid of this one. You can say it's in the waveform how it comes together. So we have all the dialogue in that scene in there.
Do we have against giving shelter to someone who's lost?
Okay, alle in Position.
Good. There's all the talk and all the stuff and all the makeshift sound effects that I did with the microphone. So like myself going like
One step.
quite obviously you don't want that for work. It's really, yeah, we do it like this. What I did in this take is, as you can see, there's gaps up here. So I cut out all the sound effects that we made with the microphone that we don't want to hear. And there is something I added. You can see down here, I've added 5 tracks of sound effects. And these are called ambient sound effects because they run all the time and they define the room that something is happening in. So I'm just going to play the first line here. We have some wind. No, it's this nice. Then add some more wind to make sure it's dark. Then we add some cicada and some grasshoppers to make it sound like it's in the night. Then we add some more atmosphere. And we add owls. And we are adding the wolves. So now it's spooky, it's outside, it's night. So this ambience track actually carries a lot of information. It's part of the scene that you can't see, because it's going to be pitch black. Nobody knows what's happening. There's no backdrop, there's no lights, but the ambience is actually telling you when and where it's taking place. So if you play it all together.
No, go back where you came from! Get out! And you too! Leave her alone! Once you have a warm meal.
No, I can't come with you. Tomorrow is the Festival of Lights. What are you going to tell the keepers if they see?
And it suddenly gets atmosphere. So you suddenly start getting goosebumps when you hear that. The next thing that is a really complicated one is adding sound effects. I'm going to show you this one. So we're taking the dialogue that is already there, and we're adding several layers of sound effects to make this work. Like I'm going to single out just this one. Like you hear the little evil sounds that the piglets make because of that creatures in the night that start attacking them. And you make sure they sound like you don't want to meet these guys. I'm not sure what the actual sound this is. I think it's the ringing of the pigs, like pitched down half the speed. And you want more of them. So you layer them. And you want them to become more and more because there's more coming. I'm going to show you another layer. They have little scurry feet, you know, and they run through the grass and they're following you. So that's the sound they make. And of course, again, it's a lot of them. So we're laying on that. That's actually me in front of a microphone, like shaking some straws and doing that. Like this little cocktail decoration that have like the flower top. I'm shaking that in front of the microphone to make that sound like little creatures. Yeah, take different takes of that. And at some point, we have the big dragon come in. So the sounds are actually like the roar of a tiger that we pitch down, and you have all the heavy impact sounds that will tell you that this creature is big, it's fierce, it's going to kill you, and it's really, really heavy. And when you play this together with the ambient sound and the really crappy dialogue that we had, it starts sounding like this.
Shit! Ah! Oh! Damn! Oh no! No! Not the fire! No! Because of the height! Ouch! Help! Get out!
Hey, you filthy beast! Get the hell out of here, or I'll burn your ugly eyes out with my light! Yes, I'm talking to you. Go back where you came.
And that's how you build the scene, because the sound tells a big part of the story that you can't actually play. When it gives your sound engineer goosebumps, you know everything works. And this is actually the track that I then save, and I send it to Scotland, to Fox Moore. And he then scores this thing like it's a movie. The music acts like an amplifier. It takes the emotions and it adds a layer. This is the music track right here. And I can play you just the music track. Without everything else. And it gives you this ominous feeling that something is going to come. That eventually the threads are swelling up at that. It's really dramatic. It's like Jaws, you know, the sharks are coming. Suddenly, the big snapshot appears. Alone gives me goosebumps. I don't know how you're feeling. This really sounds like a movie now. And eventually, when they And then suddenly you have all that dramatic dialogue, and there's also music in the dialogue that underscores what they're talking about. If they're sad, if they're happy, what's happening. But at the same time, we call it underscore, because it does not really it's not spectacular music by itself. But and it makes sure that it never gets in the way of the dialogue. But we do have certain cue lines in the dialogue that are triggering different parts of the music. Fast forward. You can see at the end of the story of that scene, there's hope. They're going to move on, and yes, Frostwood is telling her.
Festival night should be the best night of the year, not your worst. You'll be safe at my house, I promise. My name is Riversong. What's yours?
And that's how it works. And now, let's just for fun, let's play a few seconds of just everything together.
Hello? Is there anybody out there? Shit! Shit! Ah! Oh! Damn! Oh no! No! Not the fire! No! Because of the honey! Ah! Ouch! Help! Ah! Get off! Ah!
See, there's really mayhem going on. The thing is, now that we have that soundtrack, that we have all that layers, the problem is when we play this on stage, all the timing is going to be unpredictable because there will be audience reactions. You don't know how long the actors are going to play this. If you just exported this and we played this and we tried to play to it, it would totally not work. Because if there's just one moment of audience clapping, of audience laughing, or someone losing a line, they will get out of sync. So this is the first step we have in doing the soundtrack. What we now do is I'm taking parts of this and I'm ripping it all apart. We're pretty much scoring it like you would a computer game. There are certain cues in the dialogue that will initiate certain change in the soundtrack, and there are certain cue lines where specific sound effects are triggered. For example, you can see there are markers up here. So I took parts from the big mess you saw earlier here. So I took part of this big cloud of noises, and I basically keep separating them into different parts.
And these markers are the same markers you found earlier in the script where it says SND 0101.
So basically we have this one part of pig rats where she goes like, hello, is there someone? And there's another cue line that triggers the pig rats attacking. And just like that in the script, we also have like lines that will take you when to stop the sound. So we intend making them a little bit longer than we need, and we'll take them out like this thing. You have the red running away. Then you have Rehearsal fighting. And this is all elements that you saw earlier in that big line. We just separated them so they make sense, so we can trigger them at the time they actually played. Then we have like a... And that's basically how we rip everything apart. Everything of this has been like apart. Yes?
You said, and we can add them as they're being supposed to be played.
Yes.
I'm a little confused. Are these things that you're actually inserting into the live show or something?
Yes. These are the actual cues I'm playing in the live show.
So it's not all one continuous pre-recorded?
Exactly. You can't. You can't. When you play, all the voices are live, and all the sound effects have special cues in the script that tell me when to play them. So as early as I get this stuff finished, the better I can learn when the sound effects are coming. And sometimes we have parts of the choreography that are triggered by the sound effects. So people are waiting for a certain sound to play, and sometimes I'm waiting for certain words to be said. So I know, okay, now is the time to start this.
Yeah, the curtain opens and nothing happens.
It happens.
Puppeteers waiting.
And I'm waiting for them, waiting.
And then, the door sound, clap, clap, and then they come in.
Yeah. We do the same with the soundtrack. I will zoom in this for a little because the soundtrack, as we get it from Fox & Word, is basically a movie score. And I have to show this. This is one of the first music course cues we heard. And one of the things, I have no idea how long I'm supposed to play this, because the scene may take longer. They may take a little more time to get in, or whatever. So what I do it like computer game developers do it. I will take some part of this original score, I will cut it, and I will just basically do it. So I will repeat parts and basically turn this into an endless track that I can fade in the moment it's needed, and I can have fade out the moment I don't need it. So basically, when the puppeteers take a really long time, it's going to sound silly, but there's never going to be any silence. And even the part where there's and basically starts going from a certain point again. That's how we put it all together. When we're done with this, and you eventually have saved all these things, I will have separate wave files, and full scoring for the music, for example, takes roughly 3 or 4 weeks, depending on how much time Fox & Moore has. He's doing it quite fast, so I think you have about the same time when you're doing it professionally. All in all, the score for Keepers of the Light has 77 minutes of continuous music without loops. Just for scale, the Aliens original soundtrack by Jerry Goldsmith has 39 minutes. So it's an amazing amount of music we're talking about here. This is the actual software we use to play at the convention. It's called Sound Cue System. It's basically a program that is designed for theater patients like we do. And you can see all the numbers of the sound cues that we have played earlier here on the left side. It's identical to the markers in this script and the project you saw earlier. And now you have descriptions of what it actually does. You have like dark forest, spooky, scary pig, rats 1, scary pig, rats 2. And the thing that is very important for me, I have cue lines here. It takes me which line I'm supposed to wait for to trigger the next sound effect, because I can't read along the script. On the other hand, there's like, I think there's about 300 of these sound cues for an entire show that I have to keep track of. And there's a couple of cues that I can trigger by just playing a button. This is all the sound cues that are going to be used during sword fights or if something falls down. So I'm basically triggering them like pressing a key here on the key. So, and I can let people fight, and I can just react to the movement on stage. There's also sequential cues, that's the one I'm using here. So I can say, first scene starts, and it will start the aliens. And then I'm basically waiting for, I think for Pan doing the right lights. And she will eventually say, there must be a way out of this ticket. Hello? Is there any out there? Oh, shit. Oh no. No, don't knock my light. Don't let it end this way. No, no, get out! Get out! Ah! And then you can hear all the music cues are switching, all the actual sound effect cues are working together. And eventually the scene will end. So you have got a very, very short version of that scene. And that's how we're putting it back together again. So I have my few lines, and I programmed everything in the software, and I'm going to trigger it when it's needed. Simple, isn't it? I'm going to show you a very short surf of the finished scene.
Light so bright, so pure, light so true. I give myself to you. Keep on moving, girl. One step after another. There must be a way out of this thicket.
Hello? Is there somebody out there? Oh shit! No, 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 no! Oh no, not the fire! Please, gods of the holy mountain, don't let it end this way! No! No! Get up! No! Ah! Get up! Get up! No! Get up! Get away! No! Get up!
Out with my light! Yes, I'm talking to you!
No! Get up! Get away!
No! Oh, back where you came from! Get out! And you! Rats! Out of here! Get out! Get out!
And this is all the work that went into that scene. 11 scenes. Yes, one out of 11 scenes.
Yeah, 1 out of 11. So now we're 30 minutes behind, and stage has to try to cover up for this again.
I don't think we're that bad, are we?
No.
So yeah, we're talking about stage and the evolution, how it developed.
Yeah, if you see the Cues of Light, which was the last show. It was a development that started like 15 years ago. And 15 years ago, this puppet show took place on this thing you see on the screen right now. It's 4 meter wide, 1 meter deep, 1 meter 20, I think, high. It could barely hold 3 people playing on knees on mattresses that we snatched from the youth hostel. The 3 things in front of it, this is all the lighting, it's just... It was 3 light bulbs and some fixtures that we probably brought from our bandstands, and yeah, that was lighting, and back then it was just acting the playbacks.
This is Icehook's personal masturbation cabin.
Yeah.
And they took it away from me.
It was a perfect place for hidden kettle pile.
Yes. So this is year 7, this is a year later.
So this is the first show that had or tried to have a story. We realized quickly that playing on our knees for more than, I'd say 15 minutes, could be really, really pain. So we tried different things. So this is a half-height stage that goes a little already in the direction that we have.
Yes, and it integrated with the main stage with
Yeah.
the new. And we do have professional lighting.
Yeah, this time we rented pro lighting. But the stage itself was still makeshift out of plywood and cardboard.
Yeah, exactly. 1 year later.
1 year later, you see that we found out it all looks better if you have a black background. It still is cardboard and black cloth, but we're getting slowly into the direction where we want to go.
Yes. And for the first time, we are actually mounting pieces of backdrop here. So we have the logo and the map. We didn't have fully painted backdrops yet, but we started mounting things. Yeah, so this is EF10.
Yes, this is EF10, and this is the first time we are using a completely built stage rig, where the play rail is integrated as part of the whole stage construction. The save on build time was about, I'd say, 1 day that we saved just doing this.
At least a day.
The black bag. It's not part of the metal stage construction. It was still made out of plywood and had to be constructed, and that took about 2 days to build. And after the show was done, the cloth was taken off and the wood was put in the campfire.
Exactly.
So
like we still do. If we had still had a campfire going when the pop show goes, we basically burn everything because we can't take it home. You can see we're still mounting pieces of backdrop here.
And you see that we already started to use all the props on the front and try to create scenic effects with the fog and green lights. So we started from just having light to really designing light that goes with the story and going more in a theatrical direction than just a skit show.
Yeah, you can see F11 here, which is the step of evolution of that because we have a bigger rig, and ta-da, you can see our backdrop construction here. And for the first time, we're using backdrop panels. They're going to be mounted on this thing. How did you call it again?
Igor.
No, that's the first version here.
The backdrop is.
That's backdrop.
We kept giving our constructions IKEA names. So you can see you have the really nice rigging in front, and you have this makeshift plywood stuff. And this is how we would set our backdrops. We use pieces of plywood and kind of balance it and trying to get it all the way up high. And this is how it looks. We have painted backdrops here.
Yeah, but then it was 2 backdrop panels per scene.
Yeah.
It was 6 meters, so we gone from 4 to 6 meters, which is still our rehearsal stage. Which makes it sometimes even more cramped on the rehearsal because on the show we have a 7.50 m stage. In the rehearsal we just have a 6 meter. And for some action you really see that it's missing the 1.5 meter. It gets really tight.
Exactly. This one is from the Rainbow Hotel.
Yes.
So that's when it got so complicated that we actually had to make a drawing. Because we had a very low ceiling and we had to come up with a construction that we can both play and that people can still see. So we make a little diagram here where you can see how people's view are and where we need to put the backdrops so they can see them.
The people in the front, they have to see the most important parts of the puppet. So if you follow the backs, we have a perfect view of the scene, but the people in the first row, they have to look all the way up. And so if the angle isn't set right, I just see the ears of the main character for the whole show, and that's not what we want. So we have to really clear the angles and see if everything is visible even before we go there and build stuff.
Yeah. I didn't find a picture of just the puppet stage, so you see the whole construction and see how big it's actually become. And you can see that the puppet show is actually the little hole at the back.
The Ringberg stage was 10 meters, that is 6 meters in the middle, and the two banners.
One of the biggest differences we have here now that we're no longer using that pivot construction.
Yeah.
We're actually using an extension of the truss. If you look at the diagram again, here it goes. And this is how we started to mount the backdrops. We have a system that we call Igor, which is basically like a V-shaped receptacle that some screws that we have on the back of the panel basically fall into. So all you need is two guys and basically roughly hitting that thing and dropping the backdrop panel, and it will just hang because it has a special V-shaped hook construction that it will basically fall into. So this is a side view.
What I don't have, what's not in this diagram is the actual measurements. So from the ground up, which is where just the player came up, to the top of the play rail, which it says Sichtlinie, which is the sideline, that would be about 1.60 meters already.
Yes.
So with all these angle compensation, the lower part of the panel, which is left panel Anschlag, yeah, there. So this is the lowest part. This will be roughly at 1.80 meter, 1.90 meter. And then we're adding another 1.20 meter of backdrop panel, so the hook up there is somewhere around 3 meters high. So this is quite a task to put on.
Yeah, it takes some strength. Direction. This is how the stage adjuster looks in use. So you don't see much of that. All you know is that things look nice. You can actually see them, and you can play on them.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of consideration that goes into that.
Okay.
We move on to the Maritime Hotel.
Yes, bigger stage, bigger venue, bigger everything. Now we're going to 7.50 meter stage.
And they already have a stage, basically.
And they already have a 20 fucking meter stage in there. The stage was so huge that we said, okay, we're just building our puppet stage on top of the main stage.
You can see that it's entirely independent. It's basically its own stage within the stage. And one nice thing that the Maritime stage has was these lifts. Pull them up and move them down.
Yeah, the Maritime had a real theatrical stage. So they have this electric lift rails that all the lights and scenery elements get attached to. Something that we're lost here again.
And Igor.
And Igor, yeah, we also mounted our backdrop panel on this.
No, this was then Igor Light, because we don't need an extra construction for it. It was just attached to the flights.
Yeah, so these are basically bars that you can move up and down through these wires.
Yeah.
And this is the back of the stage.
Yeah, and with this, the whole lighting concept got more and more complex, because now we're lighting two different layers. We light from front, we light from top. The same with the second layer.
I have a couple of slides for the layers.
Okay, yeah.
We can show it. And with the lights on, it looks like this.
Yes.
Yeah, we really like that. And now we're at the Astral, last year.
Yeah, first time I laid my measurement in here, I said, okay, this is gonna be really, really small. I can barely fit the puppet stage into this box here.
You have a side view up here, and this is the main stage, and you're right now sitting on the main stage. That's where it was built.
So we just doubled the depth of the stage to fit the puppet stage behind a normal performance stage.
Yeah. You have a side view here. The audience is looking this way from here, and you can see the main rig, and you can see the puppet show rig, and no more lifts. We actually had to hoist up things ourselves again. You can see it on the top view here. This is the puppet stage, this is the main stage, and the curtain is actually here. We're sitting here right now. You can see a picture from construction here. So this is the actual stage that is being built in front of this.
Yeah.
And this is the stage we are sitting right now. We're sitting about here. And you can again see the puppet show trussing. And what makes lighting and everything very complex is that we have 3 levels in each scene. So we have a scene from the EF90 show here. And you can see that the scene is comprised of 3 levels. You have the actual stage level, where the characters move most of the time. Then halfway in, we have level number 2. So we have backdrops then in the middle, and characters go behind and in front of it.
Or on top.
Or on top,
yes.
And you have level number 3, that is the actual backdrops. That very same scene from a 3D perspective. This is like a bird's eye view. You see the containers in the back, you see the 3 cable rows in the back, and you see the play rail in the front, so you can have like puppets run up here, hide behind this, and come back into view this way. And this is how it would look from the back, if you can see it. You can see the characters here. And they're right now hiding behind the cable rolls. And it's one, again, the first level, the second level, and the third level. Now the complicated thing is that we have one stage that does everything. You have to have the regular stage shows, you have the dances, you have the puppet show, and the rig you build basically must accommodate all three kinds of usage. And, as we all just learned, the puppet show uses 3 levels of lighting. Each of these 3 levels have separately lighted.
Yeah, in the picture you just showed, it is already 3 different light levels. You have to have the front where the characters are. You want to have light there because you want to see the character. Then the second one, there is the street light, so you don't want to have extra light on there because the street light in itself lights and creates the mood for the scenery.
You can see that the backdrops are lighted blue.
And then you want to have the backdrops blue because we're in a night scene and want to have a little bit of moonlight on there.
This is the bird's eye view of this room and the next room and the room afterwards. And now let's put in the light fixtures. This is how it goes. Every little box here that you can see is a lamp that has to be planned for, that has to be connected. We have to take into consideration how much power it needs so it doesn't blow the breakers. And it has to be assigned channels on our lighting board. How are the lights controlled? Well, it's a very simple system. It's a system that is called DMX. It's called Digital Multiplex. It's something that has been invented, I think, in the 80s. And basically, devices and lights are daisy chained. So you have one control cable running from your controller to your first lamp. From there it goes to the second lamp. From there it goes to the third lamp. It goes on like that. And theoretically, you can have like 512 lamps on one cable. It's exactly the kind of setup that this stage uses at the moment. So every one of these lights get a number assigned. There's actually switches on each of these things where you can say this one is number 1, this one is number 5, this is number 10.
Maybe
so
like this.
At very simple, you're using like a control desk like this. So it's a very simple show, and you can turn on the colored lights, and each of the faders he's moving is basically turning on or dimming the lights that have the number assigned that the fader has. So that's the basic principle of things. Now imagine the diagram I just showed you. There was a couple of hundred lights, so you obviously don't want to put everyone on a different fader because you're running out of fingers really fast. So we have a more complicated light desk at the actual show.
It's kind of what you have with the sound, just for lighting.
Yes. If you are very curious, you can have a look at the lighting desk that we're using at the main stage over there. As long as you don't touch everything, it's out in the open, you can look at it. If you've already volunteered for doing some lighting during the dances, you probably know already a little bit of how it works. And yeah, this is all I'm going to tell you now because it would get really, really technical. I just want to make you realize that we really have an awful lot of lights to control.
I just dug up a couple of numbers from the EF20 setup. Back then we had 684 different control channels controlling 147 fixtures, and if we put everything on full on, making it really, really bright, we maxed out at 102,000 watts, just lighting. Planning these stuff took about, I would say, 4 months, and yeah, not drawing the papers, but having all the talks, all the details, all the people know what they have to do. And building it takes 4 days.
I think next up we're going to talk just briefly about sound, how it works.
Yeah, I think we covered a great deal of the sound stuff. Basically, Cheater has the software, the sound cue system software that plays out the sound. And it doesn't come in just a stereo pair. So he's giving me 4 stereo pairs, that's 8 channels. So everything from here up to here is just the playout sampler. And I have like dialogues that are pre-recorded. I have 2 channels of sound effects, the ambience that we talked earlier, and the score.
And you can change the mix on the fly to see how it works in a big room and how the actors are walking about it.
So if some piece of the dialogue gets very dramatic, I can emphasize this with adding the score to it.
The keepers are coming! The keepers are coming!
So you
Quick!
have the voices.
Make sure you're home when they come, or you won't get your presents!
Do you know what you're going to get?
I want a rocking horse!
I'm going to get my own hunting knife.
How do you know?
I just know. And I also know what you are going to get.
Oh, tell me!
No, I know you're a telltale.
I'm not, I won't! I swear, not even Mom! Come on!
And what's in for me?
Snowbell, Sunchaser, get your little party behinds over here right now.
And if you think,
I'm coming, Mommy!
if you
Wait for
think
me!
You can't hear the speech or if the microphones are too low. You can always adjust the score, the ambience, the sound effects that are not right here, and also some of the voices are actually pre-recorded, they run out of actors sometimes or out of microphones, so there are single lines that are pre-recorded. You are using these two channels over here. It also looks very easy, but you have like dialogue going over the score, and you have to duck down the score so you can hear the dialogue, because otherwise the dialogue will be just overwritten by the sheer amount of sound that you have.
Yeah. And we cut it down on the playback channels. I mean, we now have 4 pairs. A couple of years ago, we did 4 channels surround. So that added another 2 pairs for surround channels for the SFX and the ambiances.
Yep.
So I kind of needed a full desk just to mix down the backing score for the show, and then we added like 6, 7, 8 live microphones.
We decided to show some stuff that we think is really cool. That we can do with stage technology.
I don't know for how long I've been working in this company, but if it was for longer than 5 minutes, it's a miracle I am still alive.
This shows you very nicely what you can do if you have stage bits.
I think nobody here. Doesn't your chum have a secretary or anything?
This is how we use the same effect. It was a very nice thing that we were able to use at the Marity Hotel and we can't use anymore.
The boat over there is mine. We can deploy the agent right now.
I think I'd better handle this now by myself.
What? No! Oh! Oh! Bailey! No! You're making a terrible mistake!
Aloha away, Monica. And give my regards to the fish.
What? No! Oh, no! Bailey! Stop! Stop! Let me out! Bailey!
What the hell? What was that?
This is a thing I recorded myself, but it's a little bit jerky. This is our backstage monitor. From the front of house we have an infrared camera that shows us what's going on behind the stage and telephones. So this was a little stage that was hidden behind the real stage. It was called by the surveillance camera, and we had one of the characters come in live via telephone, basically, and we had him act live on that second stage, so everything would keep it sync, and we could like improvise and properly act. And this is the little stage we built there. And the video at first showed you how I was walking behind the stage and showing you where actually it was located.
And you can see by the keyboard how small the stage is, actually.
Yep.
It's about as wide as Null is, maybe double the size of Null, and a meter in the back, and there was Tiger's Eye and me sitting there in the stage, and I was leaning on him. He was leaning on the back of the stage, I was leaning on him.
Responsibility of making sure something like this can never happen again is in your hands and yours alone. Your freedom is a fundamental human right. Make good use of it, because if you ignore your rights, they will disappear. And now, I wish you all a wonderful night. Take care, my friends.
problem with soap bubbles as a replacement for bubbles in water is that usually they float down. So you can see we have a big bottle of helium here and a hose that goes to the bubble machines, and we modified it so it would fill bubbles with helium so they would float up. And then we put like UV reactive paint in them so you could see them in the dark, which caused the biggest mess I have ever seen. But they will eventually burst and you will have like UV fallout over all the stage. And the actors can see the UV lights on the bottom here. And in the end it looked like this. So it's that little details that really take a lot of attention. Because they float up, they look like water bubbles.
If there's a life after this one,
Air bubbles.
I
Air
will
bubbles
you
in
know
water.
you, I promise.
And then of course something we really like to brag about is the reactor thing that we had last year. I'm going to show you some production pictures later. So this thing had its own lighting, it could move up and down, and you could play puppets in it from below. And of course it made for the most epic dying scene we've ever done. And again, you can see what the different Proximus score makes. I want to actually direct this. Yeah.
You need a conductor's stick for that.
Last part I want to talk about is production design, and that is everything that is not a puppet and that is not part of the stage. So we have these descriptions that are in the script that will tell you how you're going to imagine that scene. But it's definitely not enough description for anybody to build a scene. So here we have the main light core control room, that's the fusion reactor. This is both the reactor chamber and main control room, conveniently located right next to each other. Start, back, start. The back wall is filled with blinking lights and computer screens. This is when Tani Daril comes in. She is doing sketches for how the stage setup is going to work. And these are composites. Actually, it's 3 layers in Photoshop. This is what we use as the basis for building stuff that is put up on the 2nd and the 3rd level. Usually, I draw this with Tani and we send it to Icebox. He said, no, you've got to have everything the wrong way around. It's not left, it's right, and this gets, and we make our corrections. We have 1 weekend to get these backdrops finished. It takes a lot of work, and you gather around all the volunteers you can find, as many artists you can find, and you show them these kits and said, go. When we meet at this weekend and we have all the volunteers there, everyone starts building the stuff that you can't build during rehearsals. So Theo and company are building the reactor here right now. We have some camo nets that are going to be the forest. We have some printed things like one of the glass stained windows, so we need to stick that on. Some backdrop panels like these are going to have holes in them, where we're cutting out parts of what is going to be a door. The material we're using is medium density fiber boards. It's the thing that you need when you're building a cupboard and you want back wall, that kind of cardboard we're using. Here you see Luno painting one of the backdrop images. One of these things is 1.20 m by 2.40 m. 3 of these make 1 scene. We have up to 12 scenes, so worst case is we need 36 of them, all painted. Quite obviously, this is too much work for 1 weekend, so usually we try to make it as simple as possible, like we have gaps in the scene where nothing is, or if it's hidden by something on the 2nd level, we just leave it out, and if it's possible, we recycle them. So this is basically one of our backdrop building weekends, activity all over the place. We have usually 1 or more artists. Rita, our backstage manager, helps coordinating this. They make a printout of all the sketches. And on the left you see Henrike, on the right you see Blue Panther, and they're giving instructions to all the volunteers, and they are drawing outlines, hey, color this green, color this red, color this blue, and then they will later fill in the details about this. We're using these backdrop panels, and before you start painting on them, you have to prime them and give them a base color. So if you have to do this to 30 panels, it takes a while. So we recorded this little time lapse where you can see what happens when you have to prime all these panels, and usually like half a day is just spent. Half a day, yeah. Next up, I'm going to show you some comparisons. On the top, you see the sketch, and on the bottom, you see how it's actually been done. The sketch doesn't show as many details, but it shows where everything is going to be and what colors are supposed to be used. You can see the living room down here is actually on the 2nd level, so you can walk behind it. These blue backdrops have completely different lighting. They have the blue outside night light, and the inside part is on the 2nd level that has a different kind of lighting there. But it's pretty close to the sketch. Same here. The character is walking behind the 2nd level, which is marked here with the green outlines. Same with the tree stuff, where someone comes out. Here's another scene. It has the same colors, but the lighting changes the colors because it's in the night. And another one, there's supposed to be some cages here, and then we took actual bunny cages and put them up here. And for the first time, we are also using backlighting. We have holes in the backdrops, and you can walk behind these. The nice thing about this is that you can now have another level of lighting, which is our 4th level. And you can have shine-through windows like this one. You saw VP preparing the printed board earlier, and we have a character playing here that you can only see the shadow of. Because he's in prison and she is hiding behind the window and she's going like, psst, I'm over here. You can just see the shadow moving. This is Blue Petter being all professional. And this is another example of a see-through thing that we used. You can see some construction pictures of the reactor I showed you earlier in various stages. It had its own lighting built in that was also controlled by DMX. So there was an extra universe just controlling this one. These Chinese cans here were a bitch to control. And that's our first test how it looks with the lights on. Yes? Wait.
Did you really use a complete flexible tube for the entire reactor?
Yeah, it wasn't a tube to begin with, it was a flat sheet. And we rolled it up.
I was wondering where to get such tubes.
It was just a flat sheet, and we rolled it up and closed the seam in the back somewhere where these support beams are, so you can't see it. And the tubing on top, the orange tubing on top, has lots of cable ties on it. It goes round and round and just keeps it in shape.
Another thing that is pretty important is stuff like this. Next built this and he went completely overboard with the details. It was originally supposed to be a painted piece of cardboard, only used for 30 seconds. Yeah. And he spent an entire day building this. And I think it's awesome. Yeah, this is another important prop. One of the lights, sometimes we build light into props, because lights coming from the stage is much more realistic than the kind of light that comes on the stage. So if we can, we try to make things light up that actually light. Like we have a street light, we put light in it. This is one of the magic lights, of the keepers of the light, so obviously we wanted it to be a light. Theo is keeping like a whole €1 store at his home. This is the stuff he collects and that we build props out of. And it's basically just a few cents each, and you never know what you're going to use it for. So he's basically boxes and boxes of stuff. And when we come up with ideas for props, he's going to build it or he's going to write the parts. Sometimes you have to be very careful what you write in your script. So at one point I wrote in the script and then some chickens are running around for atmosphere and people actually started building animatronic chickens. And I never knew until they were there. I was like, what the heck are the chickens? And they said, it's right there in the script. I was like, holy fuck. How much time did you spend on these? It's like, oh, a couple of days. Like, I need to be more careful with writing stuff like this.
And then the most epic light show begins.
And here the most epic light show begins. That's another line from my script. And he wrote the most epic light show. So it kind of works. Sometimes you can't just put everything into the script. This is a really nice prop that was easy to make. It was just a small fire extinguisher. And he uses to cool down the two people fighting. It basically costs nothing, but it makes that really nice fog effect. One thing that lights up is these electric shock rods that the keepers of the light use. They have like flash bulb in it, or really bright LED, and a little button on the stuff where you can make them light up. Yeah, this is one of the human remains they find. It's like burned up poster, like Attack of the 50 Feet Women. We have a long list of props. Usually Rita and Zephyro go through the script and they compile a list of props that are supposed to be made. And they go like, who volunteers? And then everyone runs away. And yeah, we eventually get this stuff built. So we don't really have a process for it. Basically, everyone whose time has to build props. Okay, yes, Risa is up here with me now at the moment because one of the things we are going to try if you have the patience, and it's probably going to go really, really wrong. We're going to use the Swiss Pawpetshow stage, and we're going to try to play the first scene of last year's show for you with what we have left of it.
Yeah. It's going to be like our first rehearsal.
Basically, it's because we've all forgotten how to play it, and we have like 4 meters instead of 8, and
it's about the right height.
Yes, we don't have all the props, and the snapshot I had, we had to disassemble it to transport it. It's missing some of the electronics. It's going to be fun because we haven't played this in a year, and we will see how it works without rehearsing. I hope everybody has a readable version of the script somehow. If not, you will have to make up. You will have to make up your dialogue. Yeah, but actually, when we got through all the rehearsals and we have all the props and the script is finished and we have all the sound effects and the lighting has been planned and the lighting has been built, the dress rehearsal is the first time we get to try it, which leads to a lot of surprises. Yeah.
Oh, indeed, indeed, and every stage is new. Every year we get something different, and that's what may take some time.
Yes, if you're ever running where we have like a 3-hour delay, it's because things fuck up and you don't see it coming.
Yeah, so...
Oops.
Yeah, so can I then have the puppeteers please roll Marco check on 10 for each?
Yeah,
that's what we do on dress rehearsal also. It's like, okay, we get our microphone packs, everything set up because we are playing with the headset microphones because you can't hold your script and your microphone and your puppet. Basically, yeah, it's really not going to work. So you need something like this, and we're going to check if everything works and change batteries, and then we go behind the stage and one of them fails. Always. So
the moment you're trying to plug in the fog machine, something you try to plug in the fog machine and find out that there is not actually a socket to plug it into. Because there is no socket at this place of the stage. Someone was supposed to put it there, but it's not there. And somebody is running for an extension cable. And it just takes time to find out how that works. Yeah.
Something and
So we're leveling the microphones. That's the first thing. The first thing we do before the show. Sometimes we're doing it before each scene.
Als Fuchs.
Huh? I'm here.
I can see you.
Yeah, you can see me?
I can't.
Well, that's okay. I can't see you as well.
Yeah, that's great.
Oh, there you are.
Yes, there I am.
Yeah. So do you have your script, everything ready?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, microphone checked.
Do you?
Yes, I do. I don't have it with me right now, you can see that. So.
Well, yeah, obviously.
Okay.
Okay.
And we have a light, so you're safe.
Great. My great hero in the...
It's really easy because we have only 2 microphones level. In some scenes we have like 8. Because everybody is speaking. Say a few words about that picture. Hello, you're cute.
Okay, what you can see is preparations going on before the show starts.
Oh.
We have a team which only takes care that all the props are in one place and all the actors know where to find them. We also have, let's say for the Pawpetshow, we had a separate team which only takes care of the clothing for the puppets. When they have to change clothes between the scenes, they do only this. And believe me, try to fit a pullover to one of the scenes, it's going to take ages.
You can try it later actually. We have some clothing here and you can try putting it on a puppet.
Okay, so we also check are all the puppeteers required for this scene really on stage? And we also check, do they have their props? And as you can see, one prop is missing, so I'll do that.
Another thing that Risa needs to do is she needs to keep track on which scenes consist of which backdrops and where they are going to put up. You see the setup of the underwater scene that we've seen last time. This field up here is reserved for the backdrop panels. It doesn't have any, because the actual stage that is playing on is empty. And you can see this is the stage, and the underwater scenery is actually put up before the stage. And here is a diagram of the main stage where everything is going to be set up. And they have this as a part of a script where each page is a different scene. So the people setting up behind all the stuff know where to put it. I have some pictures from last year, because we usually do the dress rehearsal on one day. It's usually Wednesday evening, and it usually takes the entire night, because it really doesn't go fast, because you have to adjust so many things. Because the first time you have full lighting, it's the first time you have all the sound effects. It's the first time you have the microphone set up you planned for. Last year we had a big problem, and we ended up having like a deadlock situation where everyone kept waiting on everyone else, fixing problems. And it got later and later, and it was 4 in the morning and 5 in the morning, and eventually it was 8 in the morning, and we decided we can't do this. We have technical problems, we can't rehearse it. And now the regular comic programming starts, and we have no idea how to fix that. So we basically reserved all the 3 slots of the stage programming we had, and we made a list of priorities of things that need to be done to make the show work. And every spare minute that was on the stage was used by us to either try out the backdrops or what else did we do?
Rehearse the scenes where a lot of people are involved.
Yes, we just rehearsed bare most important things where the choreography is. Oh, this is scary. Where the choreography is hard and stuff like that. But last year we ended up playing the entire show completely like without a dress rehearsal. We never rehearsed it on the stage we had. We just said we have to wing it.
We had no choice.
we put like 9 months of work into the show, and we had a problem with the setup that we couldn't solve. And so, yeah, with 3 hours delay, we barely made everything work, or at least we thought it works. We tested the most important things, and we basically went on stage. We said, "Go, let's play it." Just you know how the scene goes. So basically, what we're doing now, exactly.
So usually, Cheetah is not right in front of the stage. Obviously, he's way back there.
Yeah.
And our communication is via a telephone, just for the stage. And what I do, I ask one question backstage. Puppety is ready.
Puppety is ready.
I call Cheetah. Hello, Cheetah.
Hello.
This is backstage. We are ready.
Yep. We have probably power cycle the camera, so we have put up a makeshift camera up there and a television up there. So there's a more than 0 chance that I can see what is going on because we have the stage behind us. Not this one. So that's what I usually do. I sit down here. I get my script. I said ignore all error messages because it's too late anyway.
You don't want to see if anything goes wrong right now.
Yeah. So I start seating view from other PC, which I don't have. So we're not doing anything here. So yes, I think sound is ready. And yes, Tano, can you please kill the main lights? I hope you have the lid props there. Does the snapdraw actually light up?
Yes.
Okay. Do the snapdraws light up? Awesome. That means, well, I say go.
Go.
Light so bright, light so blue. Be so bright, answer me through. Light so bright, so pure, light so true. I give myself to you. Keep on moving, girl. One step after another. There must be a way out of this thicket. Hello? Is there somebody out there? Oh shit! No! No! Oh, damn! Oh no! Not the light! God's not the hardware, help me! Don't let it hand this way! No! 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 Get up! Get up! No! Get up! Get! No!
talk to you. You! Filthy, stinking rat! Out of here! Out! Out! That'll teach him. Hey. Are you okay?
Yes.
Oh. Everything will be alright. Are you okay?
Yes.
That was close. Every child knows that a simple torch won't keep the night's creatures away. What on earth were you doing out here without a proper light?
They tried to kill me. I'm running away.
It's okay, it's okay. Don't worry, you're safe now. My light will keep them away.
No, you don't understand.
Look, I know how getting lost in the woods alone can mess with your head. My village is not far away. Can you walk? I'm sure everything will be better once you had a warm meal.
No, I can't come with you. Tomorrow is the Festival of Lights. What are you going to tell the keepers when they see me?
The Festival of Lights is a celebration of love. What objections could the keepers possibly have against someone giving shelter to another who's lost?
More than you can possibly imagine. No, I can't come with you. You saved my life. You deserve better than the trouble I caused you. I've got to go. Farewell, and thank you.
Don't be silly. Look at yourself. I'm not going to let you die out here. Festival night should be one of the best nights of the year, not your worst. You'll be safe at my house, I promise. My name's Rehearsals. What's yours? Pleased to meet you, first. Here, take my hand. There's a warm fire waiting for us. Thank you. Come on, this way.
You can tell we totally messed up the cue with the snap drawer because obviously they couldn't hear the sound effects and they didn't know when they were supposed to come up. Because usually we have like a pair of monitor speakers behind the stage that will play the same sound that the audience can hear. Because if you're behind the stage, you're really, really far removed from the audience and you can't really hear what is going on. And so you have an extra set of speakers behind the stage so you can hear what you're actually doing. Thanks a lot, puppeteers. I wouldn't have expected we were playing this ever again. So
yeah, this is probably the first time we are playing one part of our show more than once.
I really want to play this show again now. Why didn't we do this? Because it's so much more fun if you don't have the stress.
I was so waiting for the opening titles.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't have the opening title on this PC, at least I don't think so.
Good. One small thing. We hope you've seen it's not black magic, it's just a really shitload of work that goes into the shows. Lots of creativity, obviously, but it's not dark magic or anything. Often people are coming after the show and like, oh yeah, I wish I could do something for the show, but I can't do it and whatever. If you think
Yes,
that, you're wrong, basically. Until now, everyone who's joined did something great to the show. And as you've seen, we always need more paws, hands, whatever you can lend. So if you're interested in helping out with art or playing or whatever, please come to us and also spread the word. We can really use a bit of help so we can keep on making epic shows.
And make great stuff happen. And it's not that one person has to do everything. It's really just, we have a team of over, I think if you count the volunteers at the Pop Building Weekend, I think we have a team of 50 people now who contribute to this thing. And if you want to be one of those people, by all means, let me know. we're going to eat your soul. All right, yeah, we have some, if you have some questions and if we should give you some answers, this would be a good time. Yes?
I had a question about the backdrops. You
Backdrops.
spend a lot of time painting them.
Yes.
Have you considered printing them on vinyl like they do it in fashion?
Actually, we did. Yeah, we tried printing a large degree to them, but we keep finding out that actually printing them is really, really expensive.
Yeah.
Because, for example, one of those backdrops is roughly 6 meters something in width and about 1 meter 20 in height. It's basically a large banner you need to print. And you need some mechanism that actually keeps it tight so you don't have wrinkles in it. And if it's printed on vinyl, you have problems with lighting because it will basically reflect the lights. So what we do is we do a mixture. We print parts on endless paper, and we stick it on. There's a lot of backdrops, especially in the Hawaii show, where there's half of the backdrops are actually printed.
The whole Chinese
Yes.
thing was.
Yes, but it turned out it's not that much easier than you think. Actually, painting this thing can be easier, especially if all you need is basically blue backdrop and some stars on it or some trees. Good artists will basically do it out of their wrist. So, yeah, we were trying to print everything that needs great detail, like posters, or if you have a column with artwork on it or something like that, we will print it. And if it's something that is done simple, like it's basically just a wall with rocks on them or trees, we will paint them because that's much easier. Any more questions? Over there.
Plan B with one of your party or
Yes, we actually had to do that. If possible, yes. I think we can compensate for one guy or one woman getting sick, because we have Risa and one of the women on the team. We have a lot of men on the team, and what we would actually do if it happens is that either, for example, Pan once had a very sore throat and she couldn't really speak, and our plan B would have been her acting and backstage Risa actually reading the dialogues, because we can have one person acting and one other person doing the actual speaking, and you can cover it up like that. It wouldn't have been perfect, but it would have been a viable plan B. And sometimes we have to exchange puppeteers at the last moment. Or we have to exchange stagehands and basically give them instructions. Like Zephyr once snapped his back and he couldn't stand anymore. And he went through all the rehearsals with us, and just an hour before the final show, he basically hurt his back and he couldn't move. And someone else had to take over, which was of course very sad for him, but it kind of did work out, so yeah. If you're planning a puppet show like this, of course, it's always a little more tight than a professional production, because you can't have every piece of equipment twice and replace it in case of breaks. Sometimes things break that you can't fix, and they're basically screwed.
I think the closest call we had was when Tani had to go to hospital.
Yeah, Tani one had inflamed stomach, and she kept throwing up, and she couldn't even keep water in. So her condition was degrading every minute because she was dehydrated and she was feeling really bad, and she started crying because she had rehearsed so much, and oh god.
Yeah, she was playing lead role, so it looked like 2 hours before the show that we had to swap the lead role.
Yeah.
And that would have been to Risa reading and some of our puppeteers playing the role.
And of course it was devastating for her, because she spent basically 1 year rehearsing with that, and on the very day she got sick. And we basically took our one of the convention medics, and we drove her to the hospital in Cebu, and our medics said, okay, let me talk with these guys, we have different authority than you have. And they basically went to the doctor and said to him, fix her. We don't matter how you can, if you have some drugs that makes it work. And the doctor said, but it's not the standard procedure. And they go, the standard procedure, we put her on stage 2 hours from now. And they were like, well, it will be on your risk, could you please sign this? And we signed it, and they put her on an IV drip, and they pumped her full of drugs, and within 90 minutes she was feeling normal. I have no idea what kind of stuff they gave her. And yeah, the good stuff. I want to have some for my stash. And they said, okay, if you're going to play,
the medics are going to stay nearby, so we have the medics posted on the left and on the right side of the stage, and watching if Tanya would keel over or not. That's quite obviously she wasn't really, she hadn't really recovered, but drugs were helping her keep fluid in, and so she played through the thing and she was so glad she could make it. She got lots of hugs that day, and she got some really, really good sleep. So, yeah. We have to figure out ways, because we're not professional, we can't replace everything. So far we always managed, even if it means making 3 hours. But we played it.
And then other stuff breaks during the show, and then it's just improvised.
If stuff breaks during the show, you have to make it a joke. If someone's wig falls off, or if there's a piece of equipment that just breaks, you will have to ad-lib it. But the lights go out, the character will have to go, why the heck did the light just go out? You have to just overplay it and make it.
He just flipped the wrong switch back.
Yeah. Lights come back, someone flipped the wrong switch, You have to play your way around it. Same when you lose a line, you basically have to end it. Any more questions?
There was a question over there.
Over there, yes.
So Eurofurence 13 was my first Eurofurence, and thus my first puppet show in general. And at that puppet show, you had all your own lyrics to songs from Nightwish.
Oh yes, we did that.
And from the shows I've seen so far, that was the only one that had such an extensive list of singing.
Yes.
Was it kind of your decision at the beginning when you thought of the theme, or?
Actually, it was. We wanted to be like a hard rock opera. So, but at that time we didn't know Fox and Moore yet. So Nightwish had put out the instrumental version of the album, and we found it's exactly the same key as Hans Zimmer's score of King Arthur. So we made a soundtrack that was mixed up of Nightwish songs and some cues from Hans Zimmer's soundtrack of King Arthur. And I will never be able to watch that movie again, by the way, because we took it all out of context. So the nice thing about his music is it's all 4 bars, and you can just cut and loop it however you need it. And the nice thing was that Ice Fuchs, who wrote basically the songs, he didn't know the originals, so he didn't know the original melodies. So I basically gave him the playback and said, write some music to this. And he composed the melodies, which completely do not match with the original Nightwish melodies. We were using just the orchestral backing track they used. And yeah, that was a deliberate decision. And we really liked it, and we did it a couple of times after that. It's a huge effort though. If you don't have anybody to upload the whole music production, I think we spent weeks of getting it right and making it work, but yeah.
I can certainly say that since that moment, the Nightwish music certainly has even more emotional value for me.
It's the same to us.
That you know Fox and Moore and everything, would you say that in general you would like to do something like that again, or would you say, oh, it was nice to try, but we'll keep it without saying no?
Sometimes we do. Sometimes we like the Hawaii themed one that we did 2 years ago. It had at least one song that Makani sung, and I think it was written by you.
Yes.
Yeah, so Fox wrote it. He did like a piano version of it, and
Fox arranged it and made it.
yes, and we sent that to Fox, and Fox made like the whole arrangement of it, but basically it's Isaac's composition. So yeah, we do it every now and then because it's fun, but it's so much work. Any more questions? Any more questions? Back there.
Once you create a puppet show, you're obviously, and you perform it, you're obviously left with a lot of props that don't really have any other purpose. What do you do with all the leftover props from shows?
It depends. If it looks reusable, we put it in storage and we use it again. Like if we have like swords or guns or something like that, it's very generic. We basically have a huge inventory of stuff in the storage, and we've made photos of everything. We've got a catalog, and some things are just too nice to throw away. Like nobody needs that lights. Yeah. Or yeah.
For example, the snapshot, or what normally is more interesting. For example, all the panels we are drawing. Also, people always see, yeah, nice. You can maybe put it somewhere. No, all of them are going to be thrown away. We have trashed pretty much everything off the show.
Yeah, we have no way to store it actually. For example, backdrops. We have obviously some exceptions to this. For example, the Ringberg Hotel kept some of the 14 decoration to decorate one of the youth club rooms because we used a lot of UV painting with bats and caves and everything. They basically asked us, can we have this? We said, sure, just mold it wherever you want. So they have it in the basement now. Some guy actually took an electrical saw and sawed out a piece of artwork he wanted to have, and stuff like that. So that was really funny. If we really like a piece of equipment, we just take it home. We all have some dead puppets in the basement, you know.
Stones.
Yeah, exactly. Some we just keep as a keepsake, but a lot.
Never use them again.
Usually at the con there's a big trash container out there, and I asked someone else to do it because I can't, or I really can't. Yeah, it's hard, but it's doing it for the fandom and doing it for the thing itself and doing it for the boss partly. Yeah. If you want to have some time with the puppets and the puppeteers, we're just going to take the puppets out the door and give you an opportunity to see them. And thanks a lot for coming, and hopefully seeing you next year.